Good afternoon, my beautiful babes and babettes. How are we? I'm feeling better. Thanks for asking. You're sweet, and I love you. I am your resident active advocate, and I apologize for my 3-day absence. Day 1, I had a horrible headache. Video was not happening. Day 2, my father came home early, so I spent the afternoon with him. Video was not happening. Yesterday, quite frankly, work kicked my ass in the morning, and I was not feeling it in the afternoon. Sorry. So, video was not happening. However, today, we are going to finally continue and conclude with the employment standards in the IASR. I have fixed the sizing and the spacing. I will no longer be struggling with my reading, and it's going to be great. By the way, if you can hear it, I apologize for the guy outside the window with the thing. But I am not the guy outside the window with the thing, so it's not my fault. Thanks for your understanding. All right, maximizing document. If I could find my cursor. There it is. Hi. Okay, maximizing document, and we're going to get right into it, because I kept y'all waiting long enough. Whoop. All right. So, under the heading of documented individual accommodation plans. Okay, so like I say, this is the employment standards, so this applies to individuals with disabilities in the workplace. All right, just in case anyone needs a primer. Although I would recommend you go and watch part 1 of this before you watch this one. All right. 1. Employers, Employers other than employers that are small organizations shall develop and have in place a written process for the development of documented individual accommodation plans for employees with disabilities. All right, so with the size of the organization, I just want to say that they define anything as small if it is 50 employees or fewer. I think the or fewer part is what is really salient here, so it's like 49 kind of thing. So that would define a small organization, but under the AODA, and we'll be reading that after the IASR, there are regulations for bigger businesses versus smaller businesses, and they don't line up. And when we get into the AODA, I'm going to be pointing out pretty much everything that's wrong with it. So, going to be a little while, but we will get there. All right. 2. The process for the development of documented individual accommodation plans shall include the following elements. 1. The manner in which an employee requesting accommodation can participate in the development of the individual accommodation plan. In other words, we dictate what we need, okay? The organization does not dictate what we need within certain limits. 2. The means by which the employee is assessed on an individual basis. That's kind of the red tape area there, because it's like, okay, the employee says that they might need this accommodation, but based on our assessment of how they function in this workplace, here is what we are capable of offering. Those might be 2 different things, okay? 3. The manner in which the employer can request an evaluation by an outside medical or other expert at the employer's expense to assist the employer in determining if accommodation can be achieved, and, if so, how accommodation can be achieved. You do not need to provide your employer with a specific diagnosis of a disability, okay? Not in Ontario, at least. I'm not sure about other provinces. I'm not sure about other countries. In Ontario, that's the rule. You can say, I have a disability for which I will need accommodation for this consequence of this disability. For example, I'm visually impaired, can't see out of my left eye, vision in my right eye is not very good, okay? I can tell them that. I don't have to specifically say to them, I have bilateral colobomas, here's my doctor's note, teacher. That's not how it works, okay? Basically, they are trusting you to make your argument in good faith and to say in good faith what you need. All right? So there is a specific amount of relying on the honor system here. All right? 4. The manner in which the employee can request the participation of a representative from their bargaining agent, where the employee is represented by a bargaining agent or other representative from the workspace, where the employee is not represented by a bargaining agent in the development of the accommodation plan. That is just flat out legalese. Oh my gosh. Okay, so basically, I think that is saying that if your employer comes back to you with a different accommodation than what you requested, there is potential to try to go back and forth to find common ground between what you requested versus what they are attempting to give you, right? There's wiggle room. There should legally be wiggle room there, okay? Whether you have someone to bargain for you or not, I think is what that's saying. That's very convoluted. All right. 5. The steps taken to protect the privacy of the employee's personal information. Like I say, you don't need to give them a specific diagnosis, okay? That can be personal depending on how you treat it, okay? Because of social stigma. You know, some of these things can be at least tacitly looked down upon, if not consciously, at least unconsciously, you know, and most people, as I believe I did say in my last video, they don't want to self-report as having a disability if they don't have to, because that can create a lot of trouble itself in the workplace, because we are still seen as inferior, whatever the hey that means, okay? I have a problem with that, and I'm attempting to change it. All right. 6. The frequency with which the individual accommodation plan will be reviewed and updated, and the manner in which it will be done. All right, so the employee has a say in that. I imagine that would happen most functionally if the disability or the nature of the disability were to change over time. For example, if I started losing more vision, God forbid, but it could happen, you know? It could, and we need to be prepared for not necessarily eventualities, but possibilities. So that allows for the room for possibility. All right. 7. If an individual accommodation plan is denied, the manner in which the reasons for the denial will be provided to the employee. Please, if you are an employer and you're listening to this and you have employees with disabilities, or you're open to hiring employees with disabilities, don't give them some BS excuse as to why you can't hire them or accommodate them, okay? That's discrimination, even if it seems valid in your eyes, okay? Mind you, there's a lot of wiggle room in that statement too, so I can't just flat out say don't do X, Y, Z, right? Which is not to say that you should hire the non-disabled employee over the disabled employee, even if they have the same credentials, okay? Also, though, don't hire the disabled employee just for the sake of optics, all right? There's so much nuance to this, and I can't get into it all. All right, 8. The means of providing the individual accommodation plan in a format that takes into account the employee's accessibility needs due to disability. Okay, for example, I enlarged the text of this. I fixed the spacing, because last time I was having issues with the spacing in particular. It was like the tops of letters were being cut off in this weird way, and it was because the text was sort of jammed together. So I fixed that. That is self-accommodation, one might say, but that is the sort of standard that I would expect from a workplace or a place of education. And having come out of university just a little while ago, it actually worked. once I figured out what I needed. All right. Okay, 3, which is weird. We're moving from 8 to 3, so this is a different standard. Okay. Individual accommodation plans shall, A, if requested, include any information regarding accessible formats and communication supports provided, as described in Section 26. Okay, so basically, if it's requested, you got to say what you got available for people and how they can work with formatting. My example is visual impairment, but there are so many others, like, say, a reading processing disorder like dyslexia. There is a software called Dragon that will read the text aloud to you. There are other such platforms that will do the same thing. I really, actually, as a person with a visual impairment, I find text-to-speech very, very handy, because then I can sit and listen rather than having to do this, as one can see me do in these videos. All right. B, if required, include individualized workplace emergency response information, as described in Section 27, and C, identify any other accommodation that is to be provided. Okay, so those are pretty self-explanatory. The last time I talked about this, it was like, you gotta know where the emergency exit is. You know, if you're a wheelchair user, or if you have a walker, or if you use a cane, either for mobility or for visual impairment, everyone needs to know where the exit is, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't see that necessarily as a particular for people with disabilities accommodation. That's just a general workplace safety thing in my view, but that's just me. All right, return to work process. Okay, so basically, if you've been injured on the job, if you were disabled on the job, that would apply here. 29, 1. Numbers everywhere. All right, 29, 1. Every employer other than an employer that is a small organization, A, shall develop and have in place a return to work process for its employees who have been absent from work due to a disability and require disability-related accommodations in order to return to work, and B, shall document the process. All right? That's important, and it also doesn't specify specifically being disabled on the job. So if you are, okay, this is a really cheap example, but if you're, walking home after finishing work and you get hit by a car, but you don't die, but, you break a bunch of bones, maybe you end up needing crutches or a walker or even a wheelchair, people have to be aware of what you need accommodations-wise when you do come back. And after a process like that, you're going to have a lot of off time. So, you have to readjust. And then once you've readjusted, your workplace is required legally to readjust for you as well. And I really like that because it's very non-discriminatory. And I have said in a video before, just self-promotion, I'm sorry, kind of, but shameless self-promotion. It's called The Fear of Disability, and I think it's among my best work. I have said this before, disability can happen to anyone, okay? You don't have to be such and such a person for disability to happen to you. Hey, if we all get old, by the way, disability is going to happen, all right? I can pretty much guarantee that 100%. All right. 2, the return to work process shall, A, outline the steps the employer will take to facilitate the return to work of employees who were absent because their disability required them to be away from work, and B, use documented individual accommodation plans as described in Section 28 as part of the process. All right, so this has to do with like non-injury related disabilities, I think. So, like, let's say you have fibromyalgia and you have a flare-up that requires you to be off of work for a while. that kind of thing. It's a pre-existing condition, but it's not, as I say, it's not injury related. All right, 3. The return to work process referenced in this section does not replace or override any other return to work process created by or under any other statute. Okay, you've seen this kind of language in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. You've seen it in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It's like, this part of the document does not override this part of another document, kind of thing. Self-explanatory. All right, moving on. How much of this do we have left? Just a sec. I want to check. I made a rhyme. Don't mind me. All right, like a page and a bit. So I'm going to finish this up, and then next video I will move on to another section. But I got to go through and see what we have left, because I'm not doing these in order. All right, new heading, performance management. Okay, so 30 and then 1. An employer that uses performance management in respect of its employees shall take into account the accessibility needs of employees with disabilities, as well as individual accommodation plans, when using its performance management process in respect of employees with disabilities. Oh, God. Okay, that one is kind of talking in circles, but basically, take people's accommodation into account when you are assessing their performance as an employee. Thank you. 2. In this section, performance management means activities related to assessing and improving employee performance, productivity, and effectiveness, with the goal of facilitating employee success. Okay, why didn't you say that first and say the other part second? See, this is what kind of ticks me off about some legal documents. They're really convoluted. All right, another new heading, career development and advancement. Oh, yeah, okay, this one's important. If you promote literally everyone else in the organization before you promote the person with the disability, even though they might deserve it before another person, you're not a good employer. Just so you know. Okay, 31.1. An employer that provides career development and advancement to its employees shall take into account the accessibility needs of its employees with disabilities, as well as any individual accommodation plans, when providing career development and advancement to its employees with disabilities. Okay, so to me, this one basically says that regardless of their accommodation needs, people with disabilities should not be held back from promotion or from being given additional responsibilities. That is what this says to me, but different interpretations for different people. Interpret this however you like. And you can find this document online. If you want to read it for yourself, you can go ahead and do that. Really the only thing I can offer is my own opinion. All right, so 2. In this section, and it does the same thing as the above. In this section, career development and advancement includes providing additional responsibilities, I just said that, within an employee's current position, and the movement of an employee from one job to another in an organization that may be higher in pay, provide greater responsibility, or be at a higher level in the organization, or any combination of them, and for both additional responsibilities and employee movement is usually based on merit or seniority, or a combination of them. I literally just said that in different words, okay? You need to put the explanation before you put the thing to which it pertains. I'm sorry, you do. It's just good practice, I think. Okay, another new heading, redeployment. Okay, this one is important too, because it's like if you have to be given another job or another kind of job in the same workplace after coming back after a disabling injury incident kind of thing. All right, this would apply there. 32.1. An employer that uses redeployment shall take into account the accessibility needs of its employees with disabilities, as well as individual accommodation plans when redeploying employees with disabilities. By the way, that can also apply just to giving people a new position with the same level of pay. All right, that's another definition of redeployment. 2, in this section, oh my God, redeployment means the reassignment of employees to other departments or jobs within the organization as an alternate to layoff when a particular job or department has been eliminated by the organization. Okay, again. I'm closing this. Don't save. Goodbye. Again, I just said that in different words, and they had a little more detail than I did, but okay. People who write legal documents. If anyone here writes legal documents and you are hearing this, please, this also applies to policies and just general, workplace management stuff. Put the explanation of the thing before you put the thing, okay? It's just good praxis, I think, but that's just the way my mind works, okay? The people who wrote this document, their mind seems to work in the flip side, reverse way of how mine would work in this situation. But that's just me, okay? That, by the way, is not a disability on my part. I am classified as, quote, neurotypical. And I need to stop saying, quote, when I actually put the air quotes. I mean, you can tell by the tone of my voice that I'm using them anyway. But anyway, yeah, that is the conclusion of the employment standards in the IASR. And next time, which will be tomorrow, goodness willing, next time we will be talking about another section in this. I know that there's a section that is only like a page long, so we're going to be talking about that next, because I'm lazy and want to do the shortest one. And this weekend coming up is Thanksgiving in Canada, so I will be celebrating with my family. So yeah, tomorrow, I don't know how much time I'm going to have. There might be a little bit of prep to do for that, but we shall see. And I will see you all tomorrow. I promise. Thank you. Goodbye. Mwah. Have a good day.